Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Emporia Ski Cabin. It's so good to see you all again. I hope everyone's keeping well and safe. Today we're going to be taking a look at these. Not the skis, but actually the base treatment that's within the skis. It allows me to never have to wax the skis ever again. You think it sounds too good to be true? Well, stay tuned to find out more. So first of all, what is this treatment? Well, it's actually from DPS skis. Who make these skis actually? But it's from DPS skis and it's called Phantom, or Phantom 2.0 is the most recent version of it. And it's essentially, like I said, a base treatment that soaks into the base and allows me to never actually have to wax the skis again. And I've had this treatment on my skis for about a year, or maybe even over a year now. So I feel pretty confident to give my verdict on them. But I guess I'll first just go into the Phantom treatment and the science behind it and how it all works. So when you first buy the Phantom treatment, it actually comes in a box with 2 sachets and a load of different things that help you apply it to your skis, sort of like rubbing cloths and things like that. But I'm afraid I actually got rid of the box when we applied it to the skis. So I don't have one to show you, but hopefully I'll just flash it up on the screen. And yeah, these sachets are probably the most important thing because they make up the application itself. And there's 2 different sachets, a part A and a part B, that need to be applied separately. But what I'd recommend you do is just pop down to your local ski shop and they might have a Phantom curing station, or maybe if you just Google Phantom curing station, you'll be able to see all the local ones to you. The guys at Absolute Snow did mine for me here in London, which was great. Shout out to you guys for doing that. But yeah, Phantom. So essentially is just a chemical treatment. And the 2 sachets are applied and they soak into the base of your ski. And they essentially soak really deep into the base of your ski rather than a wax treatment that just sits at the top of your ski. Hence why it comes off after so many days of skiing. So when you do drop your skis into your local DPS curing station, your ski tech will apply part A to both skis, or both bases, sorry. And then once he's applied the whole sachet to both bases, then he'll pop them under what's called the curing station, like I've been talking about. And the curing station is essentially just a big UV light that changes the chemical composition of the chemicals that have actually soaked into your bases. It changes them to allow them to latch onto all of the base material, essentially meaning that you've got permanent coverage throughout the whole length of the ski, deep into your bases. And that's why it's permanent, because every time you even stone grind your skis, it just refreshes the base treatment because it's so deep in there. Compared to say a wax treatment that just sits on top of your base. And that's obviously temporary because it just wears off and then you need to re-wax them again. DPS is soaked straight into the bases. If you are keen to do a DIY job, then you can obviously just do it yourself and replace that big UV curing station with the big sun outside. So if you are able to get up to 2 hours of direct sunlight on your skis, which to be honest is quite rare in winter, then you can just apply it yourself. You can apply part A once and then leave your skis outside. I believe it's for 2 hours. Leave them outside in direct sunlight for 2 hours and then take them back in, apply part B. Again, take your skis out. If you've got 2 hours of direct sunlight, then just pop them outside and leave them out there so they can cure themselves with the sun's UV rays. We would recommend doing this in spring or summer when you do have a higher chance of direct sunlight or longer days as well to actually do the application process. So what are actually the benefits of this? Well, let's start off with the most obvious one, and that is the fact that you don't actually have to wax your skis ever again for the whole length of the lifespan of the ski, which is a great benefit. I mean, when I was living out in resort, I used to love just going out onto the balcony, cracking open a cold beer and waxing my whole quiver of skis. But now living in London, I don't have the benefits of being able to do that because 1, the space, and 2, the mess, and I don't have a balcony, sadly. So having this treatment is just awesome, knowing that I can just go out every time and I know that I've got essentially a freshly waxed pair of skis. And if I want to rejuvenate it, like I said before, I can just run them over a stone grinder or a belt, and it essentially just rejuvenates that wax. Secondly, and it's a pretty big factor to be honest, and that's the environmental factors of not putting fluorocarbon wax on your skis. I believe it's fluorocarbon wax. And the bad thing with wax is that obviously it's a temporary treatment. It just sits on top of your base, and this essentially just washes out as you're skiing into the snow. And obviously as the snow melts in the springtime, that then becomes part of the watershed. So you're basically feeding the mountain with all these nasty chemicals from your wax. With the Phantom treatment system, there's obviously none of that nastiness. There's nothing released into the snow, and therefore it is better for the environment or the local ecosystem. And next up is only really a benefit for ski tourers or splitboarders, and that is the fact that skin glue will not stick to a base that has been treated with Phantom base treatment. I don't know why that is, but I have tested it in the field and it really is true. It's been great. I use Pomica skins, so they're generally quite good at not sticking to my bases. But say if you're using a old skin with really gloopy glue, then it just won't stick to the bases, which is really, really good thing. Especially if you're someone who likes to take your skins off with your skis still on, you'll find it really easy just to flick them off. And then afterwards, obviously, once you're skiing downhill, you have none of that nasty sticky business on the downhill. So it's really, really good for ski touring in that sense. If you are someone who really wants to fine tune your wax treatment, then you can, of course, just apply Phantom to the bases, but then apply a more temperature specific wax on top of it. Because it's essentially soaked straight down into the base, you can still apply another wax on top to get a more temperature specific wax for depending on the day. Say if it's a really cold powdery day and you're finding your skis to stick a little, just like any regular wax would, or all temperature wax would stick on an extremely cold powder day, or maybe it's a really warm wet day and you're just sticking, you can apply an all temperature wax to the skis on top of that. So you can just fine tune your fit if that is your thing. But again, Phantom has been great for all temperatures for me, but I'll get onto that a bit later. And finally, for the benefits, once you have coughed up that $100 price tag to get a pair of skis treated with the Phantom system, then you'll never have to wax your skis again or pay for someone to wax your skis if that's your thing. So further down the line, for the whole lifespan of the ski, you'll never have to wax. And yeah, imagine saving the price of a wax every time. Say you get your skis waxed every 2 weeks if you live in the mountain, or every month if you live in a city, then that's going to rack up, especially over say 5 or so seasons. You really have made your money back on the Phantom system after that. So what's actually my verdict? Well, it's quite a simple one really, because Phantom does just essentially work as it's intended. It always has provided me with that freshly waxed feeling, which is such a great thing when I reach for these skis, particularly these because they're my touring skis. I can just reach for the skis and know that I've got that freshly waxed feeling on these bases. There have been some particular times that have stood out of note. And firstly, that would be in Scotland, which if you've ever skied in Scotland, you'll know that it has some horrific ski conditions. And I was up in the Cairngorms once and I had a particularly horrific day with really manky snow. And these things were just trucking on. It was a long ski tour, or fairly long ski tour for Scotland. I whipped my skins off, and like I said, there's no glue stuck to the bases of these. And I did notice that some people were struggling, sticking in the horrible snow, but these were just cruising along. They were sticking. I'm not saying it's a total remedy, but there was a bit of sticking, but compared to the other people, I was just sort of cruising along in comparison. And secondly, was a ski touring trip in Austria, or the Bavarian Alps and the Austrian Alps. We're up in the Meininger Karte. I probably butchered that name, but we're up in the Meininger, which is an awesome place for ski touring. No lifts around whatsoever. It's all backcountry accessed. And we were ski touring up there, and it was a really, really warm day. We were quite hopeful that it wouldn't get so warm, but it did. And we essentially turned back on our plans for the day. As we turned back, we had really nice powder on the top half of the mountain. As we got into the tree line, essentially, it just turned to that horrible elephant snot type snow. And it was sticky, probably some of the most sticky snow I've ever felt in my life of skiing. And yeah, these were sticking. I have to admit, they were sticking. It's, like I said, it's not a proper remedy, but they were still going. And when some people were struggling, albeit they were snowboarders, so they're struggling a little more, but these were still trekking on. And especially of note was during the cat track back to get back to our car, they were just cruising along in this really sticky snow. I had to be aware to stay in the ski tracks, but otherwise where people were getting stuck and left behind, I was just sort of cruising along, similar to the Scotland trip actually. And to me, that really stood out. That was sort of 6 to 8 months after the treatment and they were still going strong. I haven't even given them a base grind yet. They do look like they need a base grind, which I'll probably do in the next couple of weeks, but they're still going strong. And that was awesome for me. So yeah, that's the Phantom, I think it's a Phantom 2.0 system now, I should call it that. The Phantom 2.0 waxless base treatment. If you've got any questions or if you've had any experience with this treatment, then just pop a comment below. And if it is a question, I'll be sure to answer as soon as possible. Otherwise, I'll see you this time next week in the Emporia Ski Cabin for another episode of Piste Off TV.